Welcome to Fearless Flight Live, the crew edition. And with me tonight is Captain Eric. Hey, Eric, how are you tonight?
Good, good.
Good. Where are you tonight?
Well, I'm in on John's Island, part of Charleston, South Carolina, and Flight Attendant Diane and I are here. She won't be appearing. Her brother passed away very recently, and we have services for him in a couple of days, and that's why we're here. Um,
Hmm.
so it's a sad trip, but that's what the story is. So Dieter and I will do our best without her help to moderating us and keeping us under control.
Well, like you said, we'll do our best. I will just say that I hadn't planned to say this, but since you mentioned it, um, there are some fearful flyers that come to us because they actually have missed funerals, or celebrations of life, or things of that nature, and that was actually the impetus for them to finally seek help. And I mean, that I couldn't even imagine what that would be like.
Right.
um but so anyway, I hope there are many happy occasions to fly, but this is definitely one of those life events that if you have a fear of flying and can't even get on an airplane, well, that is a really difficult situation, even worse.
Yeah.
So, however, if you are new to our show, every Tuesday at 6:30 Pacific, this is for people who are afraid to fly, who know somebody who is afraid to fly, or just have an interest in aviation. And we definitely have some aviation news tonight. We're going to be talking about Southwest Airlines Flight 746. And I'm just going to call it the Dutch roll incident. We're going to be talking about our special free webinar exclusively for our Birds of the Feather members. And of course, we're actually also a special cleared for Takeoff 201 monthly coaching webinar this month. I'll talk about that more, and of course we'll address any and all of your questions. Just put them in chat. And as I said before, I want to call out Jeff Adams, who has just recently flown, I believe, to Chicago. And one thing that really stirred me when I wrote his post, and he posted lots of great pictures and a little video as well. He said, I actually really enjoy flying when the skies are calm. It's that dreaded turbulence, but nevertheless, he has conquered that, and congratulations to you, Jeff. And I want to point out that our special Birds of a Feather webinar looks like, I'm just gonna call it, it's gonna be Wednesday, June 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Looks like 77% of the people who voted for Wednesday, and we're gonna go through some key breathing and mindfulness techniques. We're gonna go through this whole pre-boarding procedure, and of course, we're gonna give you encouragement and reassurance. So if you're in the Birds of a Feather, there's a link. It's a pinned post. Please register for this free webinar on Wednesday, June 26th. So now, Eric, take it away. What are we looking at here?
All right. Well, I'll definitely see you guys on the 26th to the extent I can help you. And this, what Dieter has a slide up on, has been all over the news lately, and actually for good reason. a Boeing 737 MAX operated by Southwest experienced a Dutch roll incident. And I was talking about it with Flight Attendant Diane, and she said, you're a pilot. Where does this Dutch roll expression come from? And I said, I have no idea. So she actually looked it up, and the origin of the term is from the motion of the airplane resembling a Dutch ice skater on a pond with the side-to-side motion as they push off the outer blade with the arms and the body swinging back and forth to side, and that's the origin of the term. So I'm gonna tell you guys as simply as I can what happened. And Dieter, my light keeps popping in and out. Am I pretty well shaded now, or can you see the model okay? Uh-oh, I can't hear a word you're saying.
That's okay. I muted myself. Yeah, we can see you if you hold the plane not in front of you, but to the to your right, I guess. That's perfect.
This is an A4 Skyhawk supersonic attack fighter bomber, and Diane's brother flew this in the Marines. I'm just going to use this to demonstrate what was happening with the parts. So the airplane has a swept wing, just like airliners do, and the parts we're concerned with a little bit were the swept wing and the rudder. This whole tail assembly here is called the vertical stabilizer all together, and this red portion in the back is the rudder. And the 737 is looks the same way, although it doesn't have the profile of a jet fighter. The aerodynamics are the same. And what happens in a Dutch roll is something induces the rudder to start a little side-to-side motion of the airplane, just like I'm doing with my hand. And when it does that, when, for example, goes this way, it sticks this wing farther out into the slipstream or the air and creates more lift on that wing than the one on where my hand is, and it tips it up. Well, when it makes more lift, drag also comes with lift, and so it pulls that wing back, and the airplane rotates to the other side, exposing the other wing, which gets more lift, lifts it up, and then pulls it back. And so the nose goes back and forth from side to side, and the wings roll like that. And it's a condition of instability in flight that is extremely, extremely rare, but also very serious if it can't be brought under control. And all high performance airplanes have what's called a yaw damper, that is an automatic device that makes inputs to the rudder, as I showed you at the rear of the airplane, makes inputs to the rudder, minuscule inputs to keep that motion from happening or stop it if it starts. So the Southwest flight was flying along normally at cruise with nothing exciting going on, and this event started, which would have been very exciting for the pilots, as I was explaining to Dieter earlier in a little bit more colorful terms. Normally, the rudder is powered by there are two different power control units, as we call them, or PCUs, that can move the rudder. The normal hydraulic PCU or the standby hydraulic PCU. And under normal operations, like the airplane would have been at cruise, there are also two high-powered hydraulic systems in the 737, the A system associated with the left engine and the B system associated with the right. Both of those hydraulic systems supply input into the main hydraulic PCU of the rudder and operate together to maneuver the rudder during normal conditions. Either of those, the A or the B by itself, can make inputs into that hydraulic PCU to move the rudder, such as if there had been an engine failure or something and there weren't hydraulics on the other side. Also, if for some reason there's a disagreement with each other logic in the main PCU will then just shut off hydraulic inputs from both the A and B system, and there's a standby hydraulic system that can also control the rudder through the standby hydraulic power control unit, or standby PCU. So this is, as I said, extremely rare and very serious, and investigators are all over it. And one of the things noted damage-wise when the airplane landed was there was some damage to the standby rudder PCU, which during normal flight conditions should not have been active or actuated. And so this is pure guesswork on my part and everybody else's, but it's a clue. So the investigators are looking at that to see if the standby rudder PCU was for some reason actuating or inputting rudder commands when the A and B system, the high power systems, had complete control of the rudder, and thereby overpowering the standby PCU and causing damage. That is one avenue they're looking at to see if for some reason this standby PCU was actuated when it wasn't being automatically commanded to. But it's guesswork, and these are just clues so far, and it will be investigated very rapidly and very quickly, and that's about all we know about it so far. And I hope I've been clear enough for you guys to understand that. I know you're quite bright, and I'm not dumbing it down, but I want to explain it in a fashion where it's clear to everybody watching what was happening.
So there is one question, and I'm going to ask it in a second. But the key takeaway is it's a, like you said, you refer to it as a position of instability, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And so aerodynamically, if this got out of hand, right, with the whipping, that could really pose some trouble.
Yes, airplanes have been lost to this before, because if the movement, as Dieter says, gets greater and greater in magnitude, then aerodynamic forces are on the control surface become great enough that they're torn off the airplane. The control surfaces are lost, and then the airplane is lost. And it's happened to airplanes before, but to my knowledge, not an airliner ever. That's how rare this is. To some military planes and stuff in the past, but that's why the investigation is so important to see how in the world this started. And the 737 is among the most stable airliners out there, so that makes this even more strange.
Okay, so you answered in no particular order, but you answered actually a couple of questions that came in. So first of all, yes, it was a 737 MAX 8, correct? So that's
Yes.
number one. That was just a question of, well, what type of airplane was it? With Southwest, it's always easy because they only fly Boeing airplanes and only 737s. Now they will fly, they have MAX 9s too, right? MAX 10? Will they get MAX 10s?
I don't think because remember the Alaska incident was a MAX 9, and that the short-term grounding on that affected none of the Southwest airplanes. I don't think they have any MAX 9s.
So I guess maybe they don't even have any 9s. So that was the first. The second question was if it's so rare, has it ever happened before in a, on a commercial flight, like have there been incidences? And I looked it up. I couldn't find any. That doesn't mean it didn't exist or it didn't happen. All I'm saying is it's so rare that if you Google it and you really commercial aviation, we're talking here.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything, Eric.
I never recall hearing about that happening on any commercial flight ever before. The incidents that I was aware of were military transport planes. where that had happened and an airplane was lost. And it's extremely rare there, but that's the only other time I've heard of it in a, as we call them, a transport category airplane.
And so the third question, I guess in some ways you may have even answered that already as well. Why has it not occurred on a commercial plane, but on a military plane? Like what could be the difference? All I heard you say in those two is that they're cargo jets. Maybe could it have to do with the cargo inside of the plane, maybe?
The systems designs are in concept the same, but the military airplanes are built totally differently for military purposes. And as Dieter mentions, you could have very heavy payloads, that sort of thing, that could exacerbate the motion once it started. But I don't have a file of exact incident reports of when it did happen on military airplanes. I can just remember one horrible video of seeing it in flight. And I don't even want to say the plane name because I'm not positive of which one it was. And as I said, it's this is the first time I've ever been aware of it in commercial aviation, but it's extremely rare in the military world too. And they either designed whatever it was that caused the flaw away, or got rid of the airplane when that happened. And I don't even recall that in the military arena happening in the last 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah, but you know, the way we report to you guys these incidents is, first of all, nothing actually happened. Everybody's alive, everybody's safe, the airplane is safe. But what will happen is they will do a thorough investigation. They will come up with a bunch of recommendations and maybe even something to be changed or something to be added to, you know, well, whatever it may be. Because to me, in my mind, what the first thought that I had was, so if it's so rare and it's never happened, you know, maybe even how the commercial airliners were designed, you know, like this wasn't quote unquote supposed to even happen to a commercial airliner.
Right.
And so it's something brand new, per se.
Yes.
Which is crazy. But it goes to show that, you know,
it is crazy. And the good news is, there's lots of good news, is nobody was hurt. The airplane was not lost. And besides the good news part about nobody hurt and the airplane not lost, the investigators have lots and lots of stuff they can look at, having the whole airplane intact, to figure this out, number one. And number two, because there's so many 737s in operation throughout the world, and operated with such great frequency, they will find this out relatively quickly. They'll be laser focused on this. This won't be like an accident investigation where the report comes out 2 or 3 years later. We'll probably have some answers for you in a month or two, while they get into this, because they'll get into this with full force, given the size of the world 737 fleet, to find out what the cause could have been.
Well, let me say this to you, Eric. You are on a roll tonight, and not a Dutch one at that. Because Tracy just said, well, what will be the timing of that investigation? And as you just pointed out, because it is so highly unusual and, you know, unprecedented, they will definitely, and the aircraft that's in question is so prolific.
Right.
They will do whatever they can, and they can do a lot to get to the bottom of this, and we'll definitely keep you posted.
Not fast enough for Tracy, but still really fast.
But still really fast. Well, but in the meantime, I wanna switch gears because we have every third Thursday of the month our monthly group coaching webinar, and the topic for this one, Ron and I thought, after we did a survey, well, my flight is tomorrow. What do I need to do? That is unfortunately more common than we would like, only because that really meant that your fear, had you frozen until the freeze response was absolutely not appropriate anymore, and you exploded into panic and then reached out and my flight's tomorrow. What do I need to do? So we have 10 steps to prepare for your next flight, whether it's tomorrow or next week. Obviously, we would prefer it next week instead of tomorrow, but this is going to be a great webinar because it actually coincides with our cleared for takeoff 301 flight class that we're going to have on June 22nd. That's a Saturday, from Burbank to Sacramento and back. And this monthly group coaching webinar will coincide, we did it on purpose, with the pre-flight webinar for the flight class. So that's really exciting because especially I highly recommend you register, even if you cannot attend live, because you can use the replay for this particular webinar whenever you have your next flight coming up. So even if you already know you're not available on June 20th at 6:30 Pacific, go and register for the webinar. I'll put the link in as soon as we get off. So that way you get to keep the replay, which you then can use to prepare for your own flight, whether that's next week or next month, or, well, next week. Yeah, next week past Thursday. That would be Friday, I guess.
I was going to say start packing right now, but I guess that's not the answer they were looking for.
That was not the answer they're looking for. No, it's not the droids you're looking for. And then just quick reminder, I have not checked the Southwest fares, so I cannot tell you whether or not it's gonna be still feasible to buy tickets for the class from flight class from Burbank to Sacramento and back. But this is our wow, is that the second one this year? I think so, right? This is our
Yeah, we already.
Yeah. And for those of you who are always curious, which is a great quality to have, curiosity, we may, hopefully, fingers crossed, do another Air Hollywood class in the fall. Usually it ends up being October, so just in time for Thanksgiving flying mayhem. So I think the last one we did October 20th or 27th or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So I mean, you know what, flying with Captain Ron, Captain Eric, Flight Attendant Diane, depending on how many people are taking us up on it, there is the camaraderie and that shared experience that we've been told over and over and over. It doesn't matter where you fly, that you will always have as a living memory, a powerful memory, whenever you go on your next flight by yourself or with somebody else. So if you can, it's a great way but definitely join us for the live webinar. Let's see, is there anything else tonight? Nope. Eric, do you have anything else that is
Well,
noteworthy?
I don't want to bring up more bad news. If they didn't have questions on it, we can, if they have questions on it, we can bring it up later. I'll definitely schedule around a fall 301 if we can have a Air Hollywood deal, because those are so productive and fun. And I was just going to say, this is all the lighting I have available here, but I'm starting to like my new semi-shaded profile. And so next week, I think I'm going to appear in a hoodie that our LA firefighter friends gave me, and sunglasses, just completely silhouetted like a hacker. And then you guys can tell me if that's a better look for me or not.
Gary and Gary and Oliver created a monster right there. Last but not least, I just wanted to also give a shout out to all those of you who take the time to comment, share your experience, share positive reinforcement with those people who are posting in the Birds of a Feather, having flights coming up and feeling nervous or feeling panicked about it. So thank you very much. Please keep it up. You may know what it's like, to be coming through this journey still. If you're on the other side, but it's absolutely paramount, because regardless of what Captain Ron, Captain Eric, Flight Attendant Diane, or myself, whatever we share, ultimately is not quite as impactful emotionally as coming from a fellow, even if it's former, but fellow fearful flyer. And so please keep it going. Please keep it up. This really makes the group that amazing virtual place that it is. So I just wanted to share that. And lastly, Don asked a question. I guess his partner is flying, and he's saying, sometimes even if I'm not flying, but somebody I care about, I get anxious as well. And he posted that in the Birds of a Feather, and that is actually more common than you would think, but it really has something to do with this amazing ability of human beings called empathy. Now the reality is, your spouse, friend, son, daughter may not be afraid, but we can put ourselves temporarily in their place, and we know if they were anything like us, they would probably go for a really hard time right now. So that ability, that kind of empathy, is definitely something that I'm gonna say, is even more important at this time, not just for fear of flying, but as as human beings living on this planet together, that we have the ability to connect with others in a meaningful way, and empathy obviously in the Birds of a Feather, to really connect with each other. Like, there are so many stories of people forming lasting friendships, which is really super cool. So all right, Captain Eric, if that was it, let me just double check if there are any.
Didn't have any more inbounds. Yeah.
No. Hey Sandra, great to see you. Hi Michelle, but no more questions or comments. So I hope that what you guys took away from a Dutch roll is where I thought it came out of a Dutch oven. That was not the case. I'm hoping that you guys take away that this incident has high priority. It's gonna get investigated. There's gonna be recommendations, and that's why aviation is the safest mode of transport, because there actually is an impetus to change and make things better, which is not always the same way in the car industry.
Right. We will report back to you as soon as we find out.
Exactly. All right. Well then, thank you, Captain Eric. I hope you and Flight Attendant Diane have a good time, as good as it can be, saying goodbye to a loved one. But I understand he's gonna get a real proper funeral as well, right? So
Yes, this will be a military funeral in a national cemetery, and those are quite something to see if you've never seen one.
wow. Well, my heart goes out to Diane and you as well, and we'll be back here next week, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. All right.
You guys next Tuesday.